Hello, I'm Gary York, Corruption Behind Bars. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about interviewing to be a correctional officer, mainly with one question in mind. Why would you make a good correctional officer? Why would you be good for the position of correctional officer? There's many questions that are asked during the interview process, but I want to talk about that one today. But before I get started on that question, first of all, have you got your shoes shined? Are you clean shaven? You know, the agency I just retired from does not allow facial hair. They allow a mustache, and it has to be trimmed properly. So are you clean shaven before your interview? You have a nice haircut, clean cut? You have a suit or something nice, something businesslike to wear to your interview? If you think that doesn't go a long way, you're wrong. You need to look sharp for your interview. Looking sharp for your interview is one of the biggest steps you can take. First impression of you walking in that door will stick in the mind of the interviewer or the people on the panel. Now, after scaring you with that a little bit, let me tell you this right now. Please stay calm. The panel or the interviewer all sat in the same chair you're going to sit in. And they're all humans, and they all have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. They're not sitting there just trying to find something wrong with you. They are actually trying to find the good in you to decide if you're good enough to be a correctional officer. So remember, stay calm. When you sit down before being asked this question we're going to talk about, don't look around the room. Look at the interviewer or the interview panel. They may be interviewing just for one position, or they may be interviewing for 3 positions. Either way, you have got to give a great sales pitch. That's right, a sales pitch. There's nothing wrong with using the term sales pitch, because if you have integrity, the number one thing on our list to be a good correctional officer, then you're going to tell the truth. So you give a great sales pitch by telling the truth. Because it's the job of the interviewer or the interview panel to pick the best candidate in their mind and their eyes to be the next correctional officer in that facility. So why would you make a great correctional officer or a good correctional officer? Well, do you have integrity? Can you be honest? Can you report something that you've done and you know it's a mistake, and go to your supervisor and tell them about the mistake before it blows into something worse? Do you have courage? A good correctional officer has courage. Why? Because if you've never worked in a prison before, and probably 90% or more doing the interviews have never worked in a prison before, doesn't mean that you don't have courage. Courage to go into a prison with 1,200 or more inmates on the compound, and maybe 200 or more in your dormitory. Do you have the courage to do that? If you do, then tell them during the interview. You have the courage to work around hundreds of inmates. Do you have patience? If you have patience, you need to tell them you have patience. Patience is a good virtue for a correctional officer, because I'm going to tell you, sometimes things are very slow and quiet, just the way we like it. We do our counts and nothing goes wrong. And then sometimes all heck breaks loose. And you have to handle a tough situation with inmates fighting inmates, inmates attacking an officer, or an inmate riot. So patience. If you have patience, let them know you have patience. Do you have thick skin? You have to have thick skin in this job. The people that are already in this job know what I'm talking about. If you've been in the military prior to coming in for your interview as a correctional officer, you know what thick skin is. There's going to be some name calling. You're going to be called names by the inmates. Are you going to get angry and go after the inmate physically, which would be wrong? Or can you handle being called names and say, yeah, right, go on about your business, get in line, let's go, you know. And you can write the inmate up later. Give them a counseling statement or a disciplinary report or whatever you and your supervisor decide to do. But are you thick-skinned? Tell them you're thick-skinned. Do you pay attention to detail? A good correction officer pays attention to detail, watches their surroundings, has their head on a swivel, and knows what's going on. So if you are good at attention to detail, whether it was in high school, in college, at the grocery store you worked at in the military, wherever you're coming from and now interviewing for a correction officer job, if you're good at attention to detail, tell it to the panel. They're not expecting you to be Superman or Superwoman and walk in the door and know everything that's going on. While I'm on that topic, if you don't know something that's going on or the answer to one of the questions, or you don't have all of these things, tell them, I don't have this, or I'm not sure about this. I'm willing to learn. Willing to learn is a big one. I've always thought that willing to learn catches ears of the interviewer and the interview panel, because that's what we want. We want people that are willing to learn. You're not a correctional officer right now. We're going to mold you into one. We're going to put you through the academy. We're going to put you with a trainer. But you've got to have some of these traits before we'll accept you. Are you independent? What I mean by that is, I'm not talking about being separate from a team player. You can be a team player and independent. Are you independent? You have to work by yourself a lot. You're going to have to work alone with a lot of inmates at times. You better be independent, because we don't want the inmates to become your friends and buddies. We're going to treat them correctly, and we're going to be fair, firm, and consistent. But are you independent? If you are, tell the interview panel, and I'm independent. I can handle working alone. I can handle working long hours. That's what would make me a good correctional officer. I can handle long hours, and I can work independently. Are you a team player? If you are, you need to tell the panel. I'm also a team player. I know there's times when I'm going to have to work independently, be all alone, but I'm a team player, and I will watch the back of my fellow officers 24/7, and I will assist them when they need assistance. I don't know what goes on behind a prison wall, but I do know that if my fellow officer needs help, I'm going to be there to help them. Willing to work long hours, we covered. Communication. That's a big one, because you have no correctional officer experience right now. You're interviewing to be a correctional officer. If you have good communication skills, you need to tell that to the panel. I have good communication skills. I get along well with other people. In my past jobs, I've gotten along well with my coworkers. I am a good communicator, and I ask a lot of questions because I want to get things right. I want to do things the right way. Okay? That's just a few things off the top of my head that you can be to be a good correctional officer. Now, I'm not telling you to go in there and say all these things I just talked about if they're not true. If they're not true, don't say it. That's part of honesty and integrity. Because if they find out that you have lied during an oral interview or lied on your job application, number one, you won't get the job, and number two, you've committed perjury. Misdemeanor, probably, but will it go to the state attorney? It may not, but that would knock you right out of the box, and we don't want you anyway if you can't be honest. Just be honest. If any of these things I just listed you're not feeling comfortable with, tell the panel, I'm not comfortable with this area right now, of working independently with inmates, but I know I can learn. I haven't worked long hours in the past, so I'm not familiar with that, but I'm willing to work long hours. Just be honest. That's what we're looking for. And remember, Don't make up any kind of story, because the truth is always the easiest to say. Making up a story, you have to try to remember things. You're going to forget. They're going to ask you another question. It's going to trip you up, and they're going to see right through you. So don't do that. If you can handle these things, and I don't have time to go through everything. There are a lot of things that would make you a good correctional officer. You know, I'm physically fit. I can handle the job. I'm healthy. I can shoot great. So when you send me to the range, I'm a sharpshooter. I can shoot great. You know, those are things. But I think the list that I gave you prior are some of the most important things to getting your foot in the door. We'll work with you on the shooting. We'll work with you on the self-defense. We'll work with you on all the training that we want to give you regarding searches and seizures and dealing with dangerous drugs and all that. We'll work with you on that. Get through that list I just gave you. Be honest, and I think you'll come out a winner. Good luck on your interview. If you have more questions, please place them at the bottom of this YouTube, and myself and other people will give you some more information. Thank you for watching Corruption Behind Bars.